Good afternoon, Collective. It's Al, and I'm coming to you with another video that will be accompanying a post I'm putting out on LinkedIn this afternoon, which really has a lot to do with empowering our species, especially as of conscious leaderships and especially as a group of peers, to really re-engage the way that we operate within our world in a much more healthy way by understanding the integrity by which we have come to be and the amazing power that we possess as human beings. Because like I had mentioned in the post, one of the beauty about our particular journeys is that we are the amalgamation of everything that has existed on the planet. We as spiritual beings believe that as souls we have evolved through the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms to finally stand in a place where not only are we blessed with the self-awareness of ourselves and how we relate to the world around us and to how we deal with our communities and so forth, but actually are empowered to also know of our shadow side, something very unique to our species, and something incredibly telling about the journey that we are all on, and how it really falls into a great collegiate experience, if you will, for us as beings, where we get to re-engage the world with that knowledge, understanding that each of us has a very specific, detailed plan, a lesson plan that was given to us in order to help us evolve and grow individually. And then when we've mastered that, to become part of a collective consciousness that then works to help the species evolve and move upwardly and forward. And I really wanted to focus our energy on that, especially as we head into the holidays. So in a way, it kind of feels more like a holiday address than anything else, because with some of the tragedy and things that we've been seeing in the news as of late, with just things that are falling through the cracks and people who are not always going to make it with us in this great journey of life, we mourn them and take the opportunities to really learn from those experiences in a way that helps maybe reach out to others that we may not be necessarily aware of where they stand so much. So what I really wanted to do is kind of focus our energy as a conscious leadership upon the topic of something simple. Since we are the amalgamation of so much energy that has gone into this collegiate experience, one of the things that we can do as brothers and sisters is really engage the world around us in an upliftment manner, in a way that really serves in a compassionate role for each other, and understanding that some of us have really extreme lessons plans that have been put upon us in order to help our souls evolve at a much more, at a quicker rate than possibly others. And so we're told not to be in a place of judgment because we don't know what their past is made of. And part of us as conscious leaderships then have to work on helping people understand the learning journey that they've been on and how much they have overcome in the past, so as to re-empower them into believing that they can do anything. And that is the great mission for many of us in conscious leadership, is to reach across all divides, whether it's religious houses or sexuality, intolerances, hatred, whatever it is, reach across all party lines, if you will, and kind of give that olive branch to the other person saying, hey, is there anything you want to talk about? And if they don't want to talk about it, then maybe hone in on our intuition in a way that understands that if we suddenly get prompted to bring up a past experience that we've had that comes out of nowhere, that maybe it's a great example to then use with that person in a roundabout way. And so as we engage that evolutionary model that we're in, what I really wanted to do with the piece is remind you all of how blessed we truly are. We're the only species to know of our own shadow and how we must work through it. And we are so close to graduating as the graduating class of this collegiate experience that we're in a really empowered state as beings to really do something great for the world, right? Because when you understand where you've come from, you can then take the lessons that you learned from those experiences and then let those experiences themselves go. And you stand anew. You stand in a place of empowered mental agility. You understand that no matter what is thrown at you, you will always overcome it. And you know that you must ride the waves because it must be presented to you as either a snapshot of something that you're attracting, or it's in your way so as to act as an obstacle that you will intuitively figure a way to overcome, because that is your journey. But we don't really spend a lot of time talking about the entirety of our journeys. We tend to focus our energy on individual flare-ups or things that we encounter on maybe once or twice a year that really are bugging us. But the sad part is that many of us have been indoctrinated into believing that we shouldn't even share that. Because let's say that you have a lot of money or come with a lot of power from business models and things that you've done along your path, you suddenly feel almost oppressed in a way where if you say something, people will feel or judge you based on the fact that you shouldn't be complaining at all because you have everything you need. But in truth, that's not the darkest part of humanity. The darkest part of humanity is in the mind space. There's no darker demons or shadows or evils than in our own headspace and the things that we say to ourselves on a day-to-day basis, whether it's low self-esteem or whether it's depression or whether it's some form of hidden secret within us that's burning us alive, or shame or past that are so traumatic that we really don't know how to overcome it, but we've been indoctrinated to believe that we can't share it, especially if you have some level of success in your life. And we're losing incredibly gifted talent and people that belong with us as we make our way. They're supposed to have come with us in the journey of life, and they're supposed to have graduated with us as we move on to whatever happens in the unknown. But they didn't. And so what we can do is really put out information that is detailed towards understanding that it's a lesson plan, and you have all the tools that you need. But if you ever don't have the tools that you need to overcome a shadow or to face it, then to reach out to someone that you believe can help you in trying to get to that safe space where you can. Humanity is an incredibly empowering species. It's the only known life form that literally can communicate our needs and our desires and our secrets and where we need to go and our dreams and our visions outwardly. We're the only ones that we know of register and understand patterns that have been around since time immortal, and we're now breaking the code as to what the significance is in our reality. We're the only graduating class so far to then add into it all of this technology where even AI is now becoming an issue if it's not unregulated, if it continues to be unregulated. Whereas if we do regulate it, it could be the greatest blessing and advancement for all of our species. And we're at an incredibly wonderful point in the journey of the human species that it's going to feel more traumatic when the changes occur to us because of the level that we're at. New levels, new devils. And so with each new innovative thing that comes forward, or each new task, or each new opportunity that comes in our direction, we're going to have to be able to pivot. And we're going to have to be able to empower those around us to pivot with us without trying to convince them, right? Because everyone is kind of stratified, not economically, nobody's better than anybody else, that's not the point. But everybody is on different trajectories up the mountain. And so what you do is you start to bunch together with people that are like-minded with you in order to evolve yourself and each other in a way that's supportive and that empowers you. And we're missing that sense of community right now. So the piece really, where it was coming from was a place of heart, where I felt so much love in the moment that I was writing it, that I wanted to remind everyone, especially those of you who are my readers or followers on LinkedIn, to remember how truly powerful you are. There are so many amazing people on our planet that do so many amazing things privately. There are artists and singers and musicians that uplift society. There are actors who can literally have their soul enter them and outwardly act and project whatever the character is without much regard for any type of penalty or any type of issue with it. It's just who they are. And all of those people are incredibly powerful. But it doesn't just stop there. There are mothers out there who have survived and done things that most of us could never even dream of ever having accomplished. And they did it in a way where they rose in grace, like the phoenixes that we are all an image of, right? If we really look at the collegiate experiences, there are masters and elders that have come before us that are guiding our path. They're leaving breadcrumbs for us to follow. And if you're intuitive or adept or aware, then you can follow that example and lead your own path into a next evolutionary phase. Because where they stopped in their life, we have the opportunity to continue their work if we're blessed enough to be in alignment with that mission. And all of this is happening right now. So as all of these things come towards each other, it kind of feels like a crunch. And a lot of us are feeling a lot of strain put upon us. It's almost like the more they throw at us, the more tested we are. But life is a continuous test of resilience. And you have the skill set to overcome it. And you have the ability to walk in grace and integrity. You just have to remember that you must be doing something well, otherwise you wouldn't be challenged all the time. And then you're going to get to smoother waters. And when you get to the smoother waters, you turn around and you start helping your fellow man reach those shores. And you start helping them understand that though they may be scientific, there is a lot of spirituality and a lot of universality to the way we experience our lives. And whether you believe it's a simulated experience where an artificial life form or an advanced race created us, or it was just a random Big Bang where suddenly all of this came to be, or if you're specifically spiritual and believe that it came from God or from the Buddha or from Allah, well, not the Buddha, but Allah, or whoever you believe in, all of those avenues are leading towards each other. And as we come together, it's colliding as opposed to coming together naturally. It's almost being forced upon us because of how dangerous things are for our planet, and how dangerous things are for our children, and how dangerous things are for our women. Well, not our women, but for women. Sorry, I didn't want to take ownership there, but you know what I meant. I didn't mean it in a bad way. But all of these things are actually being almost forced upon us, and it's putting us in a pickle, because we're having to grow very quickly, not always understanding why the obstacles or why the problems are showing up suddenly. Because many of us are doing the work, and since we're all at different evolutionary levels, we're having trouble finding each other in like-minded situations. For example, I really, really like a specific genius, but he does some really strange stuff, right? But I can't communicate with that person. I have no way of ever reaching that person, and there are other people like that. But that doesn't change the fact that we're all still aware of each other. And so even if we can't ever connect with people that we really feel a kinship to from a soul's level, we can still kind of communicate with each other in the sense of just be aware of the people that think like you. And then kind of walk the path alongside of them. You don't have to know people in order to be part of a community, right? We're all children of God, whatever you believe that God to be. So you know that we belong to one singular cell, which we call Earth. And the point of the piece that I was making is that the cell at some point must divide. The cell must divide in order to grow into the new life form, into the new path, into the new future, to the new heaven on earth. Whatever you believe that future to be, it has to do that naturally in order to pull it apart, in order to build the new form of life. And so as we face those things, you don't always have to be in direct communication with other people who maybe think like you or are headed in the same direction that you're heading, because you never know when the divine is planning on those two paths to cross, but you can't force it. And the more advanced you are in your lesson plan, the more you surrender to patience, which is a big one, because even I deal with that. And I'm like a temperance queen, but with patience, I get challenged too, because divine order and divine will took time to get everything to where it is now. So even if you're not spiritual like I am, you'll have to understand, or you should understand, that everything has its own natural progression. But with evolution, especially with thinking, agile beings that are aware of the work that they must do and the secrets that they hold and the past that they can't let go of, all of that is specific to humanity, which is why I keep saying, please be gentle with yourselves. This life is an incredible opportunity for all of us to do some amazing things, not just for ourselves and our families, but for each other. But we have to be there for each other, and even the granular level, because there are so many shadows that are being forced forward in order for us as a peer group to come together out of individuality towards a collective consciousness, that many people are finding it too much to bear on their own, but they're indoctrinated into believing that they can't share their story because of XYZ. Or because of gender, because let's face it, there's a double standard here. Women are told that they must kind of suffer in silence because a man rules the house, which is complete bullshit. But that's where, even no matter how feminist driven you are, or no matter how much you represent a minority, you do understand that strain and that pressure that's been dogmatically put into their heads since childhood. And there are people on our planet who, if they shared their experiences with their family, they would get beaten as children. And that molds the journey and the lesson plan for that person forward. But what we're missing is the compassion to kind of take the time to see through the facade of ego and pride. But in the end, we can't ever cross boundaries And so we have to find a better way as conscious leaders to communicate effectively with our journeys and to get it into a much wider public setting with a much more diverse sense of self presented forward, right? Because what happens is, because people are so indoctrinated into hiding things, into being afraid of their past, that it may come up and blah blah blah. Yes, but that's always part of your lesson plan. Anything that we hide in the past has to come out at some point along the journey. Or any sin that we've committed that we haven't addressed with the people that we've done it against has to come forward in order for us to then finish that lesson plan and move on to the next chapter. But what we're missing, in my humble opinion, is the community aspect where we acknowledge each other's journey, and then the two people that are being drawn towards each other then communicating to each other. Because the moment that they even remotely acknowledge one another, there's an immediate link. There's a new chain to a new, better horizon, where those individuals are now acknowledging each other and at least know of one other person that they have some similarity with. And so they are more apt to share that experience with that singular person, even if they don't know them, right? That's why therapy is so important, is because if you trust the person that you're meeting because of X, Y, and Z, you're willing to go there. But notice that even in therapy, there are secrets and sins that you would never tell anybody except your best friend. So there's where we're at. So how do you find your best friend when you never outwardly express what your experience has been? Because you will find that there are twin flames and there are soul mates, and they don't have to be your sexual partner, they can be your best friend. All of them exist, but if we don't find a way to more healthily, if that's a word, to more healthily project what we've been through, then other people won't know how to meet us because they won't understand how interconnected we already are. And so a lot of opportunities that we have to really grow quickly in a much more nurturing, supportive manner are kind of obliterated by our inability to cross that final threshold of shame. And when you look at humanity and you understand that, then you suddenly are graced by the presence of the all, because you then understand the importance of every individual light that is part of the kingdom of earth and the academy itself, and that everyone has a role to play in the trajectory in which we're going, right? And as the cell divides, a lot of us are now having to find a moderate point where we walk the path together. And what you're going to find, in my humble opinion, as we head into the holidays, and especially this great change that's coming in the new season, is that you're going to find opposites attracting each other. Incredibly spiritual beings who suddenly are like best friends with the scientific genius. Or you're going to find a celebrity who suddenly becomes best friends with somebody that's not known at all. Maybe, and not even a makeup artist, but maybe somebody who works at a restaurant and they interconnect. You're going to find all of these weird changes that naturally are occurring because it's part of your evolution as a being. Because just because someone isn't at your economic level doesn't mean that their life experience and how they were raised doesn't exactly marry yours. Or the relationships that they've had that have failed, that you don't share the experience as to why they've failed, and that you can then know both together without much conversation what not to do. But it's going to be opposites, right? Because you've already experienced everybody that's similar to you because it's part of your industry, or it's part of your family, or it's part of your community. So you already have been exposed to people that could have been, but that aren't. So you're still on the hunt. And part of the problem that I'm seeing is that when people get lost in the hunt for their community or for a sense of stability within themselves by not finding that support system, then they become so introverted that sometimes they can never actually come back out of the shell again. And there's a lot more danger to that situation than even physical danger that you might experience in a car crash. Because when you internalize everything to such a degree that you feel trapped, and once the doors close in here sometimes for people, they can't ever find the keys, even though they don't know that they have the keys, that they're the ones holding the key to let them free of the misery. And so it's so important for us to empower each other and be empathetic to the struggles that people are going through behind the scenes. All you need to sometimes do, collective, is look into the eyes of the person you're speaking to. eyes are the windows to the soul. And if the soul is losing the ability to connect with the being because they've gone, I don't know, rogue, and they're lashing out, or they've had so much trauma in their life that they're starting to fragment all this stuff, you, however, being in front of them, can act as a mirror to their experience and be the one voice that randomly, for whatever reason, checks in on them at the exact right moment, where they will then tell you what's going on. But you can't force other people to open that door, because they're the only ones who have the key. And so when we lose incredibly gifted people, we have to just understand that we couldn't reach our destination. But as long as we tried, and as long as we were loving and caring and so forth, that we have to then think of better ways to reach people that we don't know. Because it's an act of love for the person that we lost. Because we're now actively putting that in our scholastic program, that we're now going to make sure that we try to reach as many people as we really can that we don't know. Sometimes talking to a stranger is easier than talking to a friend, because a stranger rarely is going to judge you. They really, I mean, you know, so I've heard people say things when I'm at a bar, especially when I was bartending, that I was just like, okay. But if I would have been their friend, I would have been like, what the are you thinking? But as a stranger, sometimes it's a lot easier to engage with them, some of the darker parts to yourself, because there comes a point in everyone's life where desperation rears its head when you're in danger. And what we can do for each other is act as purposeful strangers, where we put out content like I do or like you do that reaches people that we don't ever know. Like, I know rarely of the people who read my stuff. I just know that there's, you know, a few thousand of them. And I know that I'm incredibly blessed and grateful for that. But I don't know them individually. But if they read it consistently like they are, then I know that they're part of my community, and maybe one day I will meet them, but I'm not forcing it, because I'm still delivering a service, which is, I'm just talking about faith, and I'm talking about spirituality, and I'm trying to reach the scientific mind or the atheist mind, and just saying, hey, I know that you're atheist, and that's great, that's fine by me, like everybody's on their own lesson plan, but we still need to evolve as a species. And so my content towards that demographic is more based on meeting them on the earthly realm and explaining to them that our planet is not only in danger, but it possibly could be dying. And when push comes to shove, if you were a living entity like an entire planet, then you would get rid of whatever's the most toxic to you. And so you can reach people in different ways, but you have to be willing to open up and be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to share your experiences with each other, but in a way that doesn't make them feel worse about themselves. And so what I really wanted with this piece is for our collective, those of you who read my stuff or see this video, to feel the love that I have for everyone, and to understand that every single one of us that reaches out and just says, hey, thank you, or that whatever it is, or that just puts content out knowing that it's going to reach people, but you don't need to know who it is, you're acting in a divine service. You have a higher mission. Because I make no money off of this. I do this because I feel it within my bone. And it's why I take so many chances on what I write. I mean, what was it? The last post I did yesterday or the day before was about angels. Because 80% of our planet believes in angels, but nobody talks about it because it's so divisive. And what house you come from, or what house of faith you will have, that people don't realize that it doesn't matter as long as you know their name. And if you believe in that symbolism, then you have something internally that you can reach out to, that your brain can then respond to. But if you keep everything internalized and you don't have a focal point from which to project to, then sometimes you can get lost believing that there's no one ever there. And that's one of the blessings about angelic energy, is 80% of the population believes in it for a reason. They believe in the energy of Michael, the great guardian of humanity. They believe in Gabriel, because Gabriel is the mouth, it's the communication of the divine. And so if you know their names, or Jovial, or whoever, I mean, I'm not going to go into specifics because that was the last post, but you have doorways that are available to you if you are from a house of faith. Don't get lost in dogma when you might need an energy that you've never heard of, but you come across at the exact moment that you need that type of inspiration or that type of guidance. And then for those of you who are more atheists, or most of you who are more scientific, there are therapists out there. But you're going to have to make time to go see them. And you're going to have to take it seriously and understand that it's harder, in my personal opinion, to open up to a therapist because you know you have to pay them to be there than it is to find a community that just loves you unconditionally and will just be there. But we're so detached from each other right now that I'm a little just concerned that because of the isolation, that there's a lot more rampant darkness within everyone's mind that may not necessarily be natural to who they are. That may be energies, if you believe in stuff like that are taking advantage of the isolation in order to make you more fearful or more ashamed, or to act in ways that make you somehow less than, to make you more vulnerable. And that is a very, very not okay situation for me. So if I can ever reach out to someone, I will. If you ever have a question or need anything from me, just let me know. Because I don't need anything back, but we can be there as comrades in a collegiate program where we're graduating, and I want as many of us to go as we can. You know what I mean? We have people on our planet who don't see our planet as a school, they see it as a prison. You see what I'm saying? It's like the glass half full, glass half empty thing, only like real. When you see our planet as a prison, then imagine how dark that space is that you reside in. But if you can see it as a school, if you can see it at the high vibrational nature that it truly is, which is the all acting through each of us outwardly, all at once, everything in the cosmos is part of the all. And it is expanding outwardly in search of knowledge and inspiration, and it's dealing with the shadow. I mean, think of light. Light goes through all darkness and it dispels it, like humanity, like people, like us. And so that's what thought form is. You dispel the darkness by shoving a light in front of it and going, wait a minute, why am I feeling this? You know what I mean? But it's specific to humanity as a graduating class. It's not something you find in the animal kingdom. They're still doing survival things. All they do is survival instinct. And if they do become self-aware like dogs or cats, it's at a very primitive level of understanding what a connection is and loyalty. But they've yet to understand, beyond the consequence of getting hit by a car, what their shadow nature is. You can tell a dog and a cat don't do something over and over again. They're going to retain it for maybe a split second, but they won't retain it long term like we can. So when you empower each other and you stand side to side, arm in arm, hand in hand, you build a community system, a unity that is reflective of a collective consciousness that prioritizes people and the souls within those people over profit, over personal gain. It prioritizes their longevity and the health of their lives, and helps educate them in more than just academia. Because anybody can go buy a book, but not everybody can reach the great all. Not everybody understands that there isn't even a possibility to do that if they just ask for the help. And a lot of dogmatic principles that existed up until this point have alienated a great many of our society, and we're losing a lot of people that we shouldn't. If we're going to graduate, then my point is, why don't we graduate together by focusing our energies on putting our people before profit and above personal gain, and instead remember that it is the divine spark of love that comes through us outwardly that will save someone's life. It has nothing to do with you giving somebody a job. It has to do with, will you be there for them if they lose a job? Because that's where the emotional toil comes down. Or will you be a friend to someone who is really in a negative space that you've never met before, but that randomly says something to you at a bus bench or at a restaurant, or you make the innocent comment to someone, like let's say you're at a restaurant, and you ask the server, how's your day going? And you can visibly see that it's not going well. It is entirely within your power to then be a human and say to them, is everything okay? And if they're willing to acknowledge you, then who's to say you're not the person that saves them from them going home and doing something drastic? There is so much negativity that is being pushed on us through a narrative that is very corrupt, that is making people feel like there's no hope. And you and me and every conscious leader and every single human being that hears or reads this understands that it's just not so. The sky is gorgeous still. The plants are still breathing. We have a chance to fix all this. You know, there's a great opportunity for people to think in new ways and to branch out. We have the whole internet thing, and we have all this opportunity and all of this growth potential right in front of us. But the darker you keep people in ignorance, that's why I said slumbering ignorance. The darker you keep people in slumbering ignorance, where they feel like there's no light coming towards them, the more that the oppressive side of the situation continues to hold power over humanity. But humanity is an academy, it's not a prison. And the moment that we as a species remember that, bite down right onto all of them without much effort. You know, if you do believe in angelic presence, or if you believe in the God, or Allah, whoever, understand that majority rules. If humanity can wake out of the slumber, whatever you believe that to be, whether it's dealing with more depressive, like dealing head on with depression and what we can do about it, or dealing more with spirituality, or dealing more with upliftment humanity, or how do we branch out and bring different educations together so as to rebrand what education means, or whatever it is that we can do to uplift humanity, all of those trump anything that is outdated, and they know that. And that's something that we as a species need to remember. In the end, every single one of us can at any point say to the all, privately, without having to cast a vote or anything, I'm done with this. I'll keep working my ass off to make a difference. I'll keep working my life, and I'll keep working my lesson plan, but I need help with these people who are suddenly attacking all of these innocent people. Or I won't tolerate, like, what can I do to understand how it is that all of this is still happening? And suddenly you will find yourself empowered to look at the world in a new way, where you start to want to serve a greater goal, which is unity. Because it saves lives, and because it's the only natural evolution for the species. Because if we don't come together once and for all, the planet can't continue, right? It just can't do it. But we have plenty of opportunity to fix all that, right? Like, it's not doomsday, but they want you to believe it is. But look at how many lives are lost. When you make people believe that there's no hope, then the darkness becomes even darker, and it becomes an abyss from which you cannot escape. And I'm telling you right now, that is not the case. Humanity is an incredibly powerful species. And there are people on our planet who are working to help us become multi-planetary species. There are people on this planet who are bringing spirituality of all faith together. There are people on this planet who are trying to reach people who are going through depression, who are going through anxiety. There's so much more goodwill going on than what the narrative is allowing us as a species to register. And it's hurting our children, it's hurting our people, and it's hurting our lives and the longevity of our species. In the end, the piece was this: absolute hope exists. It is the holidays. It is a time of family, of community. It's the day of the Lord coming up. It's all of these holidays that represent a great many things. It doesn't matter where they originated from. It just matters that they all exist at one time. And what it means is that there is hope for us. We're still here. And we can change anything at any point. But we've got to be there for each other. And we have to remember, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And no matter what challenges you're going through in the world right now, you are a graduating soul from the academy. It's going to be choppy, but you are never handed anything that you really can't overcome. But we're not endorsing that belief system. Instead, we're allowing the narrative to tell us that it cannot be fixed. Humanity is something I love from the bottom of my soul. I've always believed in it. But in the end, humanity itself must choose of its own accord whether it wants to believe that there's hope still, or if it just wants to die out. And I don't think any of us do. So during the holidays, take the opportunity to really soak in what I've said about being the graduating class, and to knowing that everything in the universe is betting on you to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to do. Because in the end, only you have the keys, and each of us fall into a specific puzzle, and that puzzle is starting to present itself, and it's giving us a great opportunity to really serve everyone universally. So as I close this piece, have the best holiday season you can. There is great sudden shifts and changes. Some of them are rather dramatic on the way. But for now, live in the present. Don't worry about presents for the holidays. Worry about how serene things are, or how loved you are by your friends, or whatever it is that brings you solace, joy, peace, harmony, and light. And sit in that space in knowing that you can make that grow no matter what comes towards you. And then be grateful for your life and understanding that you are being handed an Ivy League experience where you can master this world and leave with that mastery, and maybe even go on one day to become a doctor instead of a master. A doctor who then comes back and teaches others what it takes and what it means to be here, and how much joy there is in serving humanity over hurting it. Happy holidays. Bye.